Hey guys, it's Chris from Highline Guitars and you're watching episode 115 from the Luthier's Workbench. In this episode, I'm going to expand upon what I talked about in my most recent Quick Tips 30, which is where I recommend the use of Createx airbrush paint for painting a guitar. I'm going to specifically walk you through each step that I followed when spraying this design onto this guitar. So let's jump in and get started. Before I can spray the Createx color, I went ahead and put down some Createx opaque white to serve as a base for my color coats. The dominant color on the headstock is blue, so that's what I put down first. On the body, it'll be the red. And this is what the headstock looked like after about 3 coats. I found that Createx paint straight from the bottle was a little bit too thick to spray a nice smooth pattern from my spray gun. So what I did was I used Createx High Performance 4012 Reducer and added about 10% by volume in order to spray a nice smooth pattern. Now in case you're wondering what kind of spray gun I'm using a Spray It LVLP gun with a 0.8 millimeter needle, and I'm running that off of a very small 5-gallon 2 horsepower compressor. This is what the body looks like after spraying 3 coats of the red. I covered the entire top of the body and the headstock with some blue painter's masking tape. And then I freehand drew the design for the flames that I wanted to do onto the surface with a pencil. Then I followed that up by cutting out that design using a sharp X-Acto knife. I do this sort of work freehand, but if you don't feel confident in your ability to do that, you could always use a set of French curves to get a nice smooth line. After removing the masking tape where I'm going to be applying the second color, I had to spray a coat of the opaque white to serve as a base. After the opaque white had dried, I sprayed the first of what will be 3 coats of the Createx Pearl Blue paint. Now if you look closely, you'll notice that this blue color that I'm spraying is splattering at the edges, and that's because I wanted to show what it looks like to spray this stuff without adding any reducer. And here I'm using a hairdryer between each coat so that I can spray all 3 coats in one session. After removing the masking tape, this is how the body turned out, and this is how the headstock turned out. Now all I have to do is clear coat. When you spray color on top of another color, you'll sometimes get a hard edge that can reflect light. So to prevent that from happening, the first thing I did was I sprayed a coat of clear, water-based, flat finish, and then followed that with 15 to 20 coats of Crystal Lac Clear Gloss Bright Tone Instrument Finish. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the steps that I follow when I am spraying the Createx water-based airbrush paint. Now where things stand at the moment is I have sprayed 1 coat of General Finishes clear water-based top coat in a flat sheen, and I did that to knock back any potential light reflection from hard edges or any flaws that might be in the surface. It gives me a nice flat surface to begin building my high gloss clear coats. And what I've done so far is I've sprayed 5 coats of Crystal Lac Bright Tone Instrument Finish. That's their water-based clear coat. And what I'll do now is I will let this sit overnight, and then I will level sand the surface with 400 grit non-sterate sandpaper. And the sandpaper I like to use is the 3M 216U Free Cut Gold. It's a non-stearate sandpaper and it performs really well. Now the reason you don't want to use a stearate sandpaper is because the powder they use, that they treat the surface of the sandpaper to reduce clogging, can affect the adhesion of water-based finishes, and it just causes all kinds of problems. Well, the 3M paper doesn't have that stearate. It is still a no-load sandpaper, so it doesn't readily clog up, and it does a beautiful job of sanding. So 5 coats of the clear. I'll level sand tomorrow with 400 grit. Then I'll spray another 5 coats of clear. Then I'll let that sit overnight, and the following day I'll grab the same sandpaper except in an 800 grit, and I'll do a final dry level sanding. Then I'll spray the final 5 coats of the crystal lac finish. Once that has cured, which takes about a week, then I can level or wet sand with 1000 grit and then 1500 grit. And at that point, I can take it to the buffing machine and buff it out to a high gloss shine. So unfortunately, I can't show you the finished results yet, but if you check back in a couple of weeks in a future episode, probably not 116, but 117 from the Luthier's Workbench, I should have this guitar level sanded, polished, and buffed up to a high gloss shine. So until then, take care, have a great weekend and a great week ahead, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you don't already subscribe. Hit the like if you liked the video, and I will be talking to you very soon. Take care.